Sean Bailey, editor-in-chief at Horsesmouth. I'm here with Devin Kropp, our associate editor, who runs our advisor-client turnkey marketing program. Devin, so we start off our monthly marketing meetings taking kind of a broad topic that's relevant to everybody. And then as we move through our meeting, we narrow down our discussions to topics of specific interest for people who use our advisor-client turnkey marketing program. So starting up at the top of the funnel, so to speak, this month we're talking about connecting with CPAs through CPE Credit. Now, everybody's thinking about their CPAs this time of the year. We just came off the tax season. So what's going on here?
Right. So tax season's over. So now it's kind of the time to, ramp up your marketing to CPAs, start connecting with CPAs. And something that we've kind of seen in advisor client and working with advisors at Horsesmouth is the challenge of really building significant referral relationships with CPAs and advisors struggling to have reciprocal relationships with referrals with CPAs. Often we hear, advisors saying, I give them a lot of referrals, but I don't get many back. And there's this kind of struggle with how to have a meaningful connection with a CPA that's going to result in, more business activity. One thing that we've seen work very well for advisors to differentiate themselves from other advisors and to make a significant impression on CPAs is to connect with them through educational events rather than just being another advisor who's looking for a lunch or a coffee meeting. Offering pure education to CPAs with the added benefit of giving them CPE credit, which is their continuing ed credit that they need, has proven to be a very successful tactic for advisors who do really want to build those meaningful business relationships with the other professionals.
Right. And so what's our sense about exactly why education works in this particular setting?
Again, I think it goes back to kind of building that level of trust. A lot of times when we hear advisors or even CPAs talk about, connecting with advisors, there's this idea that, they're worried about referring a client to an advisor and something going wrong, and then, it reflecting poorly on them. And often they don't maybe feel that level of trust just by meeting you and having lunch with you one time or speaking to you on the phone. But I think with, putting on an educational event, number one, shows that you're, a serious person. Number two, it just demonstrates your knowledge on that particular topic, especially if you're educating them on a topic that they don't know a lot about, but they know that their clients need help with. So things like Social Security tends to be a really popular topic because CPAs get questions on it from their clients. They want to be able to help them, but they don't really have that information. And you coming in as kind of the go-to Social Security person for them is going to make them a lot more comfortable referring a client who's ready to claim and, has questions about, when they should claim and all of that to you, rather than just, having spoken over lunch and saying, oh yeah, I can help you with Social Security, but not really proving that right. you know your information. So I really think it comes down to trust and being just a knowledge source and demonstrating that financial education to other professionals and then to their clients as well. Yeah.
So not to jump ahead to what, Horsesmouth has specifically as resources, although we do, but yeah, this idea of educating CPAs on a range of topics that frankly, we know they don't know much about. Unfortunately, even things like IRA, a whole world of IRA planning and tax planning. And I know that's really dicey for an advisor to be thinking he can teach CPAs about taxes. And maybe that'd be the one topic you kind of avoid. But the truth of the matter is, as we know, there's very little tax planning going on, at least with, tax accountants and their clients. So how do these, if you put on an event to educate CPAs about any of these topics, what does the advisor need to do to be able to, officially deliver CPE credit to them?
Right. So just to back up a second, CPE credit is the continuing education credit for CPAs. It's like, if you're a CFP and you need CE credit, it's similar to that. Except for CPAs, it is like a state by state basis. So the number of credits you need depends on the state that you're in. So there's not a uniform number like it is with the CFP board. So if you wanted to go and, do this on your own, you certainly can. You would just need to be approved by the CFP board in your particular state or any state that you want to work with CPAs in. There is a national board, NASBA, it's the National Association State Board of Accountancy, and they are approved in 49 states, everywhere but Texas. Texas does its own thing. But if you want to work with CPAs nationwide, you could go ahead and do that. Now, if you go that route, if you go the state board or the national board, they're going to give you different standards that you need to follow to be a sponsor on their behalf. Usually that's, getting your presentations approved by them, following some certain guidelines around marketing, the presentation in general, tracking attendance, things like that. So there are steps that you have to follow and standards that you need to make sure you're up to date on, which can be, time consuming if you're just, an advisor with a smaller staff to go through this entire process, and to continue to go through this process every year to remain a sponsor. So the easier way, if, we have some of our advisor client or our master members listening, we at Horsesmouth are a NASBA approved sponsor, meaning we are approved in all 49 states. And then we also have a separate approval with the state of Texas. So we are approved in all 50 states. And going through us means that you don't have to become a sponsor on your own. We're your sponsor. You're a presenter on our behalf. So you are ready, you're approved to go using any of our approved presentations. And then we also have templates for all of the other kind of guidelines you have to follow. So number one, that's a marketing flyer for each presentation that has some important disclosures from NASBA that is required for CPAs to see. We give you an attendance record tracking sheet so you can track attendance. NASBA will need to make sure that people are there for the full hour to grant credit to them. An evaluation form, we give you a template for that. There are 5 specific questions that you need to have CPAs fill out at the end. You can add your own to that, but those 5 must be on there, and we provide you with a form for that. And then certificates. You have to give a certificate to all of your CPAs. They self-report their credit to NASBA. That's how CPAs handle their credits. They're used to doing that, but you need to give them the certificate to do that. And we give you a template for that as well. So that's definitely easier than, going through your state or getting approved on your own, because when you do go through the approval process, you have to provide a lot of information, especially at first. The renewal gets a little bit easier, but at first there's a lot of work that goes into it. And we've done most of that work for you. Right.
Yeah, good. And by the way, during the pandemic, how have people been handling? Normally when we created this program, it was intended for in-person use, but we hit the pandemic. People started taking a liking to webinars. Did that happen in this space as well?
Yeah, that's a great point. So when COVID first hit, NASBA responded fairly quickly and said, anyone who was approved for live in-person presentations is now also approved for live webinar presentations. They understood that there was no in-person things going on, and they knew that, CPAs still needed to get credit. So they had to kind of move quickly to make sure that people could keep up with their education credits. In the past few months, they have now said that, sponsors have to reapply to be approved for webinars separately now that things have started to go back to in-person, which we are in at Horsesmouth the process of doing so. There's a huge backlog at NASBA. So right now we are approved to do it. But they're still, going through all of the documents, but they basically have kind of given everyone emergency use authorization that until that goes through, everyone is approved still for in-person and webinars. So we are approved for you to do webinars. We soon will have the official approval for that. But for our members, you'll notice when you're going through the materials that we provide to you to give these presentations, they're all the same for webinars and in-person. The one thing that is different is the certificate of completion, because it has the delivery method on it. So you just need to make sure that you're using the right one. But there's a note on that and in our CPE credit guide, so you can be sure that you're using the right documents.
Right. And the key thing for people to keep in mind if you're going to pursue this approach is that you do have to have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted. It's not overwhelming, but you can't be lackadaisical or pass it off to a staff person who is unfamiliar with the situation. They'll at least need to spend some time getting up to speed on the things, because you wouldn't want to sponsor an event and then find out that you did something wrong, and the people who were there, that you were there to educate and impress, suddenly didn't get the CPE credit. So, but it's definitely doable. And so what are some of the topics that people typically present on?
So at Horsesmouth, we have, for our advisor client members, we have 6 approved presentations that all advisor client members have access to. I'd say our most popular of those 6 is definitely the Social Security presentation. Like I said earlier, this is a topic that CPAs want to know more about. They're getting questions from their clients, and it seems to bring in a good audience for advisors who choose that route. I'd say we also have our cybersecurity presentation, which is a very popular one. There's been a survey for the past 5 or so years that asks CPAs, what are your biggest business concerns? And cybersecurity is always kind of in the top 10 of their concerns there. And so this presentation, you don't have to be, an IT specialist to give it. It just kind of walks you through some actions that you can share with the CPAs that will help them protect their own data, but also their clients' data that they know that they have a lot of. And then we also have 2 roundtable presentations, which I think are really kind of interesting ways to connect with CPAs, because this is a more collaborative discussion rather than you just going out and presenting. In the roundtables that we have, one is on retirement accounts and deciding, where to take money from first. And one is on the net investment income tax. You give a quick 15-minute kind of presentation in the beginning, and then the remaining half hour, 45 minutes is just a group discussion with everyone who's in the room. So whether it's a bunch of CPAs or just other professionals, it's a great way just to get to know people while also still showing that expertise. We also have one on LinkedIn for CPAs, which is all about kind of how they can market their business on LinkedIn. We have one on Medicare, and those are the ones available in advisor client. But then all of our Savvy programs also have their own presentation that can be given to CPAs. So IRA, taxes, caregiving, college planning, they all have their own complimentary presentation.
Good. When I first entered this business more than 20 years ago, one of the first things I learned about this particular part of the world was kind of a tip from somebody who had been very successful with cultivating CPAs in his area. Every late spring, early summer, he would throw an annual barbecue or cookout or pig picking, whatever part of the country you're in, what your outdoor grilling approach is, for all the CPAs in the area. Kind of a outdoor sunny day beer and barbecue bash. Because the large wave of the tax season had passed, and people were, a little more. I mean, these days with extensions and all sorts of other things, you could make the case that accountants are busy all the time. But anyway, it is past the traditional April 15th wave, and this advisor would put on, this barbecue for the people in his area, and it was like a great way to keep in touch with them. And, what you could do is you could have one of those and put on a presentation as well. So, come for the presentations, stay for the beer and the barbecue, or just come for the beer and the barbecue, whatever. But I think an approach like that would make your mark in your local community with CPAs. So a lot to think about there, Devin. We encourage you folks who are interested in developing more strategic allies to take a look at Horsesmouth's what we call the program Advisor CPA. And it's part of our advisor client program as well. And you get it as a master member. But now let's move on to this month's advisor client specific actions. What do we have coming up this month, Devin?
So May, our theme is retirement planning. So we have a special article reprint on people who maybe want to kind of, shift into retirement gently. So maybe work part-time or, be a consultant on the side and not fully retire, but have some of the benefits of retiring. It's entitled Downshifting, working longer and loving it. It's a trend that, we've been seeing where, people kind of gently go into retirement rather than just stopping work completely. So some of your clients or prospects might be interested in learning more about that and, different, processes that can help them kind of make that transition. A lot of people struggle with, having their identity be based in work and then all of a sudden stop working completely. So this can be kind of a way to bridge that or, give people something to do in the meantime while they make that transition.
Yeah. The Wall Street Journal, by the way, just last month did a piece on this very topic. And I think they called it part-time retirement. So work optional is another new phrase I've seen. But it is an interesting idea. And I do think for, there's a wide range of motivations for people to consider it. Some of the ones that you mentioned there, some of them relating to shoring up their finances while also balancing the nagging thought that you only go around once and now's your time. So that'll be good. What else do we have going on in May?
We also have the Key Birthdays postcard. This is a great kind of referral piece to send out in the summer. Basically, it's a postcard with some key kind of financial ages that everyone should be aware of. So, when you need to take your RMD, when you're full retirement age, things like that. I say it's a good referral piece because often, if you just say to your clients, oh, I'm accepting referrals, it's really hard for people to think about someone to refer to you. Like they just all of a sudden think of every person they know in their brain and they can't really narrow it down. But if you send them a piece that says, do you know someone who's turning 72 and needs to take an RMD, that's much easier for them to think of someone who they might want to, put in contact with you. So it covers some of the kind of key ages. It's helpful for the client because if they're turning any of those ages, they're reminded, oh, I need to, take that action. But also can, result in referrals for you because they're going to be thinking about people they know who are turning those ages as well.
Yeah, good. All right. And of course, each month we want to look ahead to the next month so people can start thinking and planning. What do we have happening in June?
June is all about estate planning. So our reprint, again, is intergenerational transfers helping adult children. So this is kind of an interesting take on, maybe giving your children money now instead of waiting until when you pass and them getting this huge inheritance. And some of the benefits or the ways that you can do that now. Maybe they want to buy a house or do something like that, and you want to provide them with some of that inheritance upfront. It kind of goes through some of the steps there. For our master members, of course, we have estate planning presentation available to you if you want to kind of build a whole thing around that. We have many other reprints on estate planning as well that you could kind of build a whole campaign around. For advisor client members or even master members as well, in the summer months, I think, sometimes doing more of these fun webinars. I don't know if it's fun, but less, financial heavy webinars can be beneficial. So we have Hack-Proof Your Smartphone, which we actually created from advisor requests. Clients were coming and saying, after we released Savvy Cybersecurity in our main presentation, advisors were saying, I did this presentation for my clients, they loved it, but they had a lot of questions about how to protect their smartphones. And so we actually created this presentation as a response to that. It's shorter, it can be kind of a lunch and learn situation, webinar or in person. That just goes over some key actions on, how to protect the data that we carry around with us 24/7, and make sure that, we're treating our phones and our iPads like we're, treating our computers and making sure they're safe. So that's another kind of thing you can do in the month of June. I think it'll be really beneficial. Clients and prospects find a lot of value out of the cybersecurity presentations that advisors put on.
Yeah, they certainly do. And it's a big topic, doesn't go away. We've seen what's been going on recently. So put that on your schedule for a webinar in June. But this has been the May monthly marketing meeting. I'm Sean Bailey, editor-in-chief at Horsesmouth, here with Devin Kropp. Have a great month. And remember, keep on marketing. Talk to you next month.